So I just saw Interstellar and I have mixed feelings about it. If the only factor in this review was what I saw visually, then I would give this a 10 out of 10. With Christopher Nolan, he has such a healthy blend of practical and computer-generated effects that it's often hard to tell which is which. Part of what I love about him is that whenever he has the opportunity to use a practical effect over a computer-generated one, he'll take it. And when he executes a practical effect, he does not skimp out. There's a scene in which the truck goes off the dirt path and runs through a cornfield. If the same script was handed to a different director, it's difficult to imagine that it would have been done with as much effort. With Christopher Nolan, you could see the path being created by the vehicle in many overhead shots, and because it's a practical effect, you have a limited amount of opportunities to get the shot just right. Many directors would show the truck going into the cornfield but then limit the shot to only being within the vehicle from that point on. I'm happy to say that Christopher Nolan puts effort into the shots that he's filming instead of taking the easy route. I really loved the movie visually, and I thought the concept was pretty cool. But alas, there are other aspects that make up a movie for me, and some of these aspects were not done as well. Most of the performances were pretty great, but unfortunately the child actor playing Murph had a few slip-ups. Yes, she was able to cry from her tear ducts, but her performance was not really convincing. During what should be crucial and emotional scenes, her emphasis and enunciation was so off that I wasn't really able to get into them. Matthew McConaughey's performance held up nicely, so those scenes weren't completely lost, but it was distracting to have one performance stick out like that when everyone else was doing so well. The score by Hans Zimmer was pretty great as usual. It's not his best score and it did get used pretty repetitively, but it was pretty great overall. I really liked the robots in the movie. Now I'm aware that the design of these robots is so incredibly impractical that it would never happen in real life, but it was cool to watch them perform different tasks and use their bodies in sort of a Swiss Army knife way. Their characters were humorous and added a lot to my enjoyment of the film, and I'm a little forgiving when it comes to the impracticality of the design because it is clearly an homage to the monolith from 2001: A Space Odyssey. Now I'm about to enter spoiler territory, so if you don't want to be spoiled, skip to this part in the video. If you're on YouTube, you should be able to click an annotation to lead you to that point in the video. I'm gonna start spoiling shit in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. The biggest problem I have with this movie has to do with the script. I can't think of a single other Christopher Nolan film that had so many moments that I would call sappy. In many ways, it seemed as though this story wasn't all that original. It was clearly inspired from films like 2001: A Space Odyssey and Sunshine, and I'm not sure I would call it better than either of those films. Now, if you've seen any of my previous reviews, it is quite the pet peeve of mine when love is used to save the day. And in a Christopher Nolan movie, I kind of expected better than that. So when Anne Hathaway's character started speaking in a way that seemed as though it was setting up some future reincorporation, saying, "Oh, love transcends all dimensions," I was seriously hoping that her character was just crazy, despite the tone of the movie explicitly implying that it would be reincorporated seriously later. Unfortunately, I was right, and it was reincorporated later seriously. When you're going to reincorporate something, it's best if you can't call out which scenes are going to be reincorporated before it happens. Like seriously, as soon as Anne Hathaway started talking about it, all I could think was, oh god, please no. Like, yeah, love is totally not a chemical reaction in our bloodstream that exists to coerce reproduction. Love is magical, and it transcends space and time. Anybody that agreed with me that it was dumb in the movie The Host should also agree that it's dumb in this movie as well. And the worst part about them not only including but reincorporating that line about love transcending dimensions is that the movie could have been the exact same without that ever being mentioned, and the logic would not have been changed at all. I don't see how the film's logic would have made any more or less sense if they didn't mention that. Like when Matthew McConaughey was fucking around with the past, he was attached to a specific room and not a person. Like if she didn't go back to that room as an adult, then they would have been fucked. Like if love for your children was the determining factor in this space equation, then shouldn't you have been attached to her and not a room? I got the impression that the outcome of that scene depended on specific coordinates, so I really don't see how love transcending dimensions had any effect on anything that happened. Also, did no one find it weird how she immediately jumped to the conclusion, oh, you're my ghost? Like, is there any person, especially a scientist, that would ever come up with that conclusion? Like, of course nobody believed you. There were no logical steps that would be taken to come up with that conclusion. I just love it when characters pull things out of their asses that happen to be 100% fact and ultimately decide the outcome of the film. It never feels cheap at all, no matter how many times it happens. Anyway, I enjoyed the movie overall, and I found it to be worth the price of admission. If you find yourself heavily weighting a film's visual aesthetics into your overall rating, then go see this film, and I'd imagine you will really love it. The small issues I had with the plot aren't bound to affect everyone, so go go see the film and judge it for yourself. Conceptually, I really loved what this movie did with time, and it made for some really emotional scenes. Even though I thought this movie was visually fantastic, overall it didn't wow me in the way that I hoped it would. That's pretty much all I gotta say about it for now. I made this quick because I'm working on a big YMS review for you guys, so stay tuned for that. And I'm giving this one a 7 out of 10.
Put those sandals on.
Yeah!
It only took us 3 seconds. This is scary.
What's happening? Gay of the year.